If you like to watch bumper cars, the NASCAR Xfinity Series race at Martinsville is wildly entertaining. However, for many NASCAR veterans, including Mark Martin, Jeff Burton, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and even current NASCAR Cup Series competitor Denny Hamlin, were none too pleased with what happened during the NASCAR Xfinity Series race on Saturday. And it was capped off by Sammy Smith just plowing into the back of Taylor Gray and creating all kinds of carnage on the final lap. Let's take a look here at what happened. But by no means was this the only incident of just boneheaded driving, because it was from pretty much everyone. And even Austin Hill, he eventually ended up winning the race, but even during his victory interview, he's literally apologizing because he wrecked his own teammate and Jesse Love by just driving into the back of someone and then spinning out 3 or 4 cars in front of him. It's just terrible stuff. And this was happening throughout the entire race. But here's what happened at the very end of the race between Sammy Smith and Taylor Gray. Sammy Smith in the number 8 red and white car there. Taylor Gray in the black and yellow car in the lead number 54. Let's take a look. So Taylor Gray he just drives right into the back of him, sends him spinning. Austin Hill is into the back of Allgaier, gets up behind him. Allgaier's into Sammy Smith, and then just carnage, just total carnage throughout the rest of the field. Just terrible racing right there. And I think some blame obviously can go to Austin Hill there as well, even though he won. But he clearly sent up Allgaier into Sammy Smith and then kind of caused all that stuff. But obviously Sammy Smith wrecking Taylor Gray was obviously the first contact that happened. So Sammy Smith was unapologetic. And he said he would do it again, and he said Taylor Gray would do it to him too. And I think this type of mentality needs to be rooted out. And I think the only way that it is going to be rooted out is by NASCAR punishing these drivers for this. There's a saying that the law is a teacher. NASCAR has to be the law and teach these drivers that this is unacceptable behavior. And if NASCAR doesn't want to do that, I think they're saying that, hey, that's fine. That's exactly what we want. And you're just going to continue to encourage it. But here is a portion of what Sammy Smith had to say to Bob Pockrass following the race here. Let's take a listen.
You know, I'm not very proud of that, what I did. I mean, he just has no respect for me, and he was flipping me off under the red flag, swerving at my door. I moved him into one. He still had to lead those 2 restarts, and that going on the back straightaway, I thought to myself, what would he do in this situation? And he would have done the exact same thing. So, you know, he's flipping me off, and that right there was the line for me to ultimately make the decision I made.
So there you go. I mean, you can hear him he's saying that, oh, well, Taylor Gray would have done the same thing to me, so I'm going to do this, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just like, well, you did it. He didn't do it. You can't be thinking like that. That's just utterly ridiculous. And people call this out. Mark Martin sarcastically asked, "Are you entertained?" Obviously, he's doing this sarcastically. If you go through his feed, you can see this, and we'll get to this here. This guy, Chris Lambert, who I believe is the spotter for Denny Hamlin. Yeah, he says he's the spotter for Denny Hamlin right there. And he says, now's the time for the competition executives that are in the NASCAR tower each week to set an example. Sammy Smith willfully admitted that the carnage he caused on track was his plan. And I think we saw that. If you want to watch the rest of that, obviously you can from Bob Pockrass. But yeah, it's pretty clear. And then Mark responded to this saying, it's a damn shame NASCAR has been put in this situation. They should not have to police this. It hurts the sport to have to be the police of on-track ethics and hurts it if they don't. I'm critical of NASCAR for some things, but this is a no-win for them. So I understand where Mark is coming from, but at the end of the day, NASCAR actually created the rules that I think are encouraging a lot of this. Win and you're in, right? And so people are going to do anything that they can to win the race to get in. They're not points racing. They won't settle for a second place knowing that they don't have the best car, etc. So I think that because NASCAR has to police it because they're the ones who are encouraging this in the first place with their win and you're in rules that they made with the playoffs. So I get where Mark is coming from here, but I do think they put themselves in this situation where they have to actually do this. So that's what they have to do. And then You can see other posts here from Mark, obviously reposted Jeff Gluck. Of course, that race ended that way. Absolutely embarrassing, shameful race. So it's very clear that Mark was being sarcastic here when he says, "Are you entertained?" And he wasn't the only one, as I said at the top of this video, who was critical. Dale Earnhardt Jr. says this racetrack is historic in the grand scheme of all things. In the grand scheme of all things NASCAR, and deserves better. And I think this is actually before Sammy Smith railroaded Taylor Gray. Denny Hamlin says it just takes one penalty and it will stop this crap for the short term. That is, got to send a message. I 100% agree. I think it has to be at least a single race suspension. I think you have to do a huge points penalty, and I think you have to do a big fine as well, financial fine there, monetary fine. I think they have to set that. I think it has to be almost as big as when they do the parts component penalties, where we saw Chase Briscoe had to like appeal the penalty or whatever. I think you have to have it has to be as big as that, and then on top of that, add the race suspension. This wasn't the only thing that Denny Hamlin said. Obviously, he says Martinsville is a track that could use an avoidable contact penalty, describing it as absolute garbage. And he says, "I wish I were in the booth. I'd get fired, but I damn sure would call these idiots out." And I mean, like I said, it wasn't just Sammy Smith. We saw Austin Hill running through the back of all of those other guys, hitting Allgaier, etc. He had done it earlier in the race as well. I mean, over and over and over again, we saw this. Connor Zillich, trying to work his way through the field, was constantly getting spun out. It was just pathetic race to watch, especially in that third segment or whatever they call it. The name escapes me right now off the top of my head because I'm just so like, this is so just awful of what we were witnessing. Jeff Burton says some of these guys needed to have the experience of racing with Jack Ingram and Tommy Ellis, obviously noting that we're just not even racing here. Jeremy Clements, I thought, had a really good comment here as well. He says, really disappointed in the lack of respect on the track tonight. It's a disgrace to this great series. Not many out there race without just running into the guy in front of them. Not sure what we do to clean it up, but something must be done. So obviously, I've talked about already penalizing Sammy Smith, but I do think you need to start penalizing some of these other drivers too, and maybe doing it in the race. I mean, we've seen this happen before where they penalized Lane Riggs in the Craftsman Truck Series, where they put people in and sat them for like 2 laps. Maybe that is something that NASCAR needs to start looking at when they are doing this. I know if you watched the Cars Tour race last night as well, they penalized Landon Huffman after he was involved in a wreck with Ryan Millington, sent him to the rear of the field. Kyle Busch has talked about that in the past. Maybe that is something that NASCAR needs to start looking at and seriously look at that. Either send them 2 laps on pit road, or at the very least, send them to the rear of the field if they are the ones involved in an accident, whether or not it is them causing it. I mean, in the case of Landon Huffman, I don't think he actually caused that wreck last night, but that's the rule that the car store has. And even he says, like, look, this is a really good rule, and that's the letter of the law. And you go to other divisions, they don't have that, and you have a little bit more chaos. And I was talking about the Smart Modifieds, which he also competes in. What's interesting is that Ryan Preece actually predicted this ahead of the race. He spoke to, I think, Steven Toronto here. He is with CBS, and this is what he had to say here. Let's listen to this real quick.
I don't even think the Xfinity Series racing, in Martinsville is that great. I just see guys knocking each other out of the way. That's it. I don't think that's racing. I can go to a local go-kart track and knock a guy out of the way and do the same damn thing.
So there you go. I mean, comparing the Xfinity Series race at Martinsville to a local go-kart track, I think it's more bumper cars, right? It was just more bumper cars. Who can I hit and how often can I hit them? And that seems to be the case there. So obviously a lot of NASCAR veterans weighing in. We saw Dale Earnhardt Jr., Mark Martin, Jeff Burton, Denny Hamlin, Jeremy Clements. So I think we're going to see a lot more people weighing in. There's clearly, I think, pressure on NASCAR to issue some penalties to try to rein this in because this type of driving, it's unacceptable. And at the end of the day, it's not racing. It's bumper cars, and you're not watching racing at all. But let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below.